Okay, number 8 and summary review number 3, or summary review 3. And again, we have a binomial factor. And these are starting to get a little more involved. But again, if you show all your steps and are patient, and use a lot of paper, which a lot of you don't want to do, but it's worth the investment because these are heavy-duty processes here. You don't want to skimp and then get fouled up because you can't follow your work. Again, if you're careful, it's not too difficult. Just follow the same pattern. So basically, we have a common factor. It's a binomial factor. It's a base, x squared plus 3, x squared plus 3. These are the exponents, which is the least power, where the least power is the one that's farthest to the left, which is negative 5/3. That's more negative than negative 2/3. So that's what I'm going to factor out, x squared plus 3 to the negative 5/3. So basically, I'm going to factor this out. So again, being consistent. All right, I tried to show you over here. And what we have is, if we look at the first term, it's going to be x squared plus 3 to the negative 2/3 minus this negative 5/3. That's what I'm factoring out. So remember, we got a minus because we're dividing out. Really, when you're factoring, you're dividing out. So that's what the minus is. And then we've got, this is what we're factoring out, a negative. So we've got double negatives here. And then we've got the x plus 3 to the negative 5/3 minus the negative 5/3. Okay. And again, I notated over here, this is going to be plus 5/3. So 5/3 minus 2/3 is 3/3, which is 1. So this is just going to be x squared plus 3 to the first power. And then again, a negative 5/3 plus 5/3 is 0. So this is just going to end up being x squared plus 3 to the 0. Anything to the first power is just add anything. So this is x squared plus 3 plus 1. So that's what this is, x squared plus 3 plus 1. And then I put this in the bottom over here to make it positive. And again, it's not so long, it's just higher. And then 3 plus 1 is 4, so there's your final answer. So it's not really difficult. Let's just go through the process. Okay, number 9. Okay, so we got some fractions involved, so you got to be good with fractions, of course. Got to be good with all mathematics and calculus. It's everything. And again, we've got a common binomial factor, 4x minus 1. I've got 1/2, 3/2. 1/2 is the small, so that's my least power. So this is what I'm going to factor out. 4x minus 1 to the 1/2. Oh, that should have been in green. Sorry, I kind of fouled that up. It should be in green. And this is going to be 4x minus 1 to the 1/2 minus 1/2. And this is going to be negative 1/3, 4x minus 1 to the 3/2 minus 1/2. And that's a positive 1/2. I think I might have made an error there, so I just tried to doctor it up. Okay. And this is what we have now. This is the 4x minus 1. And then 1/2 minus 1/2 is 0. And then 3/2 minus 1/2 is 2/2, which is 1. All right, so this is just 1. All right, and then this is going to be 4x minus 1 over 3. So I just put it over 3 like this. Okay, so that's all pretty understandable. And now what we want to do is we want to combine these numerical terms, so it's a little bit easier to combine it as one fraction because we're going to factor the 3 out at the end. So what I did was I wrote the 1 as 3/3 minus this whole thing over 3. Now remember, this is a grouping sign, so this negative does apply to both these terms if it comes to that. Okay, and it does because let's see here. So we have this 4x minus 1 to the 1/2, and then we can put these all over the common denominator. So that's going to be 3, and that's going to be negative 4x, and a negative times a negative is a positive 1. So be really careful. I could have put a parentheses around it to emphasize that this negative sign applies to both these terms. This is a grouping sign. So when I put these over the common denominator, that's negative 4x, and that's a positive 1. That could be a potential hazard place for an error if you're not careful. Okay, and then we can group these. 3 plus 1 is 4. So we end up with something in this vein here. 4x minus 1 to the 1/2, and 4 minus 4x over 3. And then, you know, sometimes you could leave it like this, and you look at the answer. What they happen to do in the book here was, where I got these problems, is they factored the 4 out. And then for some reason they wanted the x in front, so they just flipped these and factored out a minus sign. So this was your final answer. So you had to do a little bit of algebra to get it in the form they had. And you do a lot of that in calculus. You'll do a problem and you'll get a raw answer like this. And you go, okay, that's my answer. Then you look in the back of the book and this is what you see. So you have to go through all this algebra to actually justify the fact that this is indeed the correct response. So there's a lot of algebra involved to doctor it up and get it to look the way they want it to look. But you know how to do all that. So again, we just flip these around and factor out a minus, factor minus 1, and then we've factored the 4 out here and put it in front. So that's what we've got. Okay. So a lot of algebra skills. Remember, algebra is the language of calculus. Calculus is the language of physics. So you'll learn a lot of your algebra in calculus. All right. Okay, look at this one. So again, we have a numerical factor of 2, and we've got this 4x plus 3 in both, and the least power is 2, so I'm going to factor out a 2 and 4x plus 3 to the negative 2. So that's what I'm going to factor out. So that's my least power here. And again, what I did was I divided by 2, so I divided the negative 8 by 2 and the 10 by 2. And then again, we are going to factor this out, so we're going to be subtracting. So this would be my 4x plus 3 to the negative 2 minus negative 2. Remember, there's a double negative again. And this is going to be 10 divided by the 2. And then I've got the 5x plus 1 kind of stays put. And then I've got the 4x plus 3 to the negative 1 minus the negative 2. And then we just have to simplify. So this is my 2, the same thing. And 2 goes into negative 8, negative 4 times. And negative 2, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So I got negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. This 5x plus 5 stays put. And negative 1, and a negative times a negative is a positive 2. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, so anything to the first power is just that anything. So this ends up being 4x plus 3, and this is 5x plus 1. I was kind of running out of room on the paper, so what I did was I just multiplied these two binomials out just using the FOIL method. 5x times 4x is 20x squared. 5x times 3 is 15x plus 4x is 19x, and 1 times 3 is 3. And then I can multiply this by 5. And then anything to the 0 power is 1, so that's just going to be negative 4. This stays the same. This first term is just negative 4. And to save a little bit of room also, I put this 4x plus 3 to the negative 2 in the bottom at this time. I could do it any time. Chose to do it there, so I left the 2 out there. And then I have this negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4. Then 5 times 20 is 100x squared. 5 times 19 is 95. And 5 times 3 is 15. And then 15 minus 4 is 11. That's the only difference. I've got 2, I've got the 100x squared, I've got the 95x. 15 minus 4 is 11, all over the 4x plus 3 squared. So there's your final answer. So again, a lot of algebra involved. This is least powers. We will be using it, so just take your time, write these things out. It takes a while to write all this out, especially if you use pretty colors like this. So I hope this helps.